at her. Let's get at her. It is another episode of the Mainly Broncos podcast. We want to thank you guys for hopping on the stream, and we are expected to have a fun-filled family adventure of the Mainly Broncos podcast. Thank you guys so much for hopping in. Make sure you hit the subscribe button for the MHRT network over there on YouTube. And as always, we too also have the Mainly Broncos YouTube channel that you can tune into. So make sure you hit the subscribe button for that. We also are doing short form. We are doing short form in the case of being produced and provided over there on Instagram and TikTok, as well as over on the Mainly Broncos Twitter account. So make sure you go follow both Mainly Broncos on TikTok and Instagram, as well as the X Twitter platform. All things considered, we'll dive into anything later. But Jordan, how are your spirits? Are they boiling hot because of the Bronco game? Are they more boiling hot because of another reason? Or are they even keel? They calm?
I would say that I was more calm the day after. So on Monday.
Definitely a better feeling for me too.
Yeah. Tuesday, though, yesterday, got a little agitated on the old Bird app. And then again, today, that loss still stings. I mean, it's going to sting for every fan and everybody that just covers or just loves the Broncos in general. Also, doesn't help that my high school basketball team did not play great at all today in their fall league game. So that also is a good additive into all of this. But
you should probably put a disclosure that no names were harmed in the making of this podcast. So if there's
it's true. This is true.
So, like, if there's players that get certain called out or whatever, there were no names or people that were harmed in the making of this podcast.
Yes, very true. But I will say, even on a Wednesday night, we still have to wait several days for the Broncos to play because they play on Monday night,
which is a good thing. I feel like
it is. It's just like I want this game to be played already because I need to see this team just shut up some people on social media because I'm tired of what's been happening, but we'll get into everything.
It's been kind of a busy point. I think that for me it's one where I clearly had a much better feeling after the game. And I think it's just probably the one of those things, like when you have a divisional game, and granted it's any football game, but when you have a divisional game and it's a loss, it just leaves a bad taste in your mouth. And then when you have the way they lost, coupled with the way they lost last week, it just kind of
it's not a good mix.
It just kind of snowballs on you, right? And so it's one where it's an unfortunate case and fortunate scenario, but I think just when you look at it on the surface, right? When you look at it on the surface, you still have to look at it for what it's worth in the teams that they played in the first 2 weeks. 3 weeks really, and that is there was the Tennessee game. Their defense is certainly better than people give them credit for, and as we clearly saw when the Titans played the Indianapolis Colts, the Colts are a lot better than people think, as specifically as it is early. And also too, it's something that relative to the Chargers, it's one of the things that always scared me, with Jim Harbaugh back in the league. And he's such a well-coached unit. He coaches such a well-coached unit, if you will, from top to bottom and from a roster, that he doesn't necessarily have to have a good roster necessarily, because like Bo Nix is going to be one of the worst rosters from their standpoint with even Justin Herbert, and even his career, even though Herbert's a bit later in the career. But it's like he knows how to coach, and he is specifically one that is a trench warfare type coach. And so he is won and lost in the trenches. And, it's one where it was evident. You clearly saw that in how he plays and how the Chargers played, because they set the tone early, right? Like they set the tone early with those trenches. And I think it was definitely one where they made it known, that they wanted to make a statement specifically with the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean that the Chargers defense. I know it's getting talked about more and more, but what Jesse Minter has done with that defense has been tremendous. I know for the Broncos' sake, it's not good, but just as a fan of football, it's good to see Derwin James, healthy. I know he's had some injury problems in the past, but he's the best safety in the league when healthy. But yeah, that Chargers team takes on the personality of their head coach, and I think that's like more than obvious at this point. And I know a lot of people have thoughts on Justin Herbert, but I've always been a big Herbert guy. He's
Yeah.
legit, and now that he finally has a real head coach that trusts him and now has surrounded him with some pieces and really have gone all in on him. I mean, Chargers are going to be good, especially with Harbaugh at the helm and Herbert being the quarterback. So it's not surprising at all, but it just hurts even more because, I mean, you talk about 10 plays, but we're just one play away from winning that game. So let alone 10.
Let's just get it out of the way. Let's get it out of the way. Might as well get the nasty out of the way. I think that we've reached the point. There's been plenty of tweets out there, myself included, Jordan and others, and it's one where it's like, I actually am convinced. I'll just lead it off with the tweet that I said yesterday. I am fully convinced that that Broncos country, the fan base, more and more would have ran Josh Allen out of town. That doesn't necessarily mean that the Broncos itself as a franchise would have ran Josh Allen out of town, but Broncos country would run Allen out of town by the way that they are. And I think that specifically when you look at it from the performance on the field, it is evident. Like it is evident, that the fans, they are spoiled, they are impatient, they don't know how to show patience for one, and it's one where they need that instant gratification like that. And every single thing gets amplified, every single thing gets broken down, and I think that's the nature of the beast, if you will, when there's different platforms and you're going to have different ideas. You are going to have different ideas and different voices of opinion. Where it gets absurdly ridiculous is when there are people claiming and shouting from the rooftops of a new quarterback once again, when we are in the third game of his NFL career. And I think it certainly doesn't make it necessarily make it any easier with Bo coming in, and the joke is right that he's 30 years old coming into the league. So it doesn't make it any easier that he's older coming into the league, but you're also patient for what the team is giving you patience for. And there's no doubt that the Broncos will be showing the same amount of patience to Bo as they should for, Sean Payton probably growing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The other side of this, Jordan, is the play itself, even dating back to last year, like there were some moments where we are still seeing a bit of the same stuff that we'll end up talking about. But statistically, we are talking about a quarterback that put up some insane numbers that if Jaden Daniels did not have the season that he had last year, he would have ended up being probably the rookie of the year. And two, look, the NFL top 100 is not something, that is something you want to put on a resume for sure, but it is still very much viewed by the peers. And it's one where clearly the players valued this season that Bo Nix had last year. So I don't know, but for me, I would rather take the player side of things or even the former quarterback side of things when I'm taking some of the opinions of this. And I think that that's the one part of this, the other side of this too with Bo, is that it's like when you have former quarterbacks or quarterbacks who are commenting about the position of Bo Nix, they know a thing or two about that position. And when they believe in that quarterback, I don't know. Maybe you should have a tendency to maybe listen a little bit more. And I know that listening is a bit hard in Broncos country.
Yes.
So I think at the end of the day, Bo will be fine. There are still some things that he does need to get corrected, specifically from the early part of the season, and it does kind of stem from the head coach, where he starts slow, just like Sean Payton himself starts slow.
I mean, you said it greatly. I mean, we do view this whole topic, and it falls into so many categories the same way. The fan discourse on social media is toxic, and that's putting it nicely. And I understand there's the normal trolls, which it's okay. Like, I'm not obviously talking about those people. I'm talking about just the general fan. And I think the biggest thing that got brought up throughout the weekend was, we're fans. We can we're allowed to complain and stuff like that, which 100% right. Like, we can all complain. At the end of the day, it's not going to help anything. And it just creates a very, very toxic and negative environment in where people are trying to actually talk about what's actually happening. And then it turns into the major overreactions, and then maybe things get spun away in which they're not supposed to be spun. Like, just a whole bunch of things start happening once you get just so much negativity upon negativity. And at the end of the day, yes, not only me and Cam can say it, Bo Nix himself will say that he needs to get better. No duh. Any player in the league right now, even the best ones at their position, will still say that they need to get better. It's just a normal thing to say. I mean, as a player, you can never continue to get better. But in saying that, the whole discourse around, the overthrows he had, was it his fault? Was it not? Is he the guy moving forward? Has he ever even made a clutch play ever in 20 games of his career? Which I saw that one, and there's just so many things that have been said, and I get it. Back-to-back losses, heartbreakers, all that. Again, I'm just as frustrated as anybody too, but it creates this conversation on social media, and and I get it. It's easier to understand negative comments and just negativity better than it is to just listen. It just is, but it's really gone to another level. And I thought after the 8 years or 9 years, you can say, of the
You think?
Broncos had, where it was just misery after misery, it would get better, especially after the year we just had last year. So I don't know. We'll see.
Big Mike had to throw that one in there.
Oh, I love Big Mike. I mean, he's always on cue with this. I mean, it's great. It's great.
Although we'll probably talk about that. You do have to give him credit for one of the big plays of that game.
Yeah, no, that was awesome.
I think he blocked like multiple people on that run, but that was super impressive. Or I should say the J.K. Dobbins drive. But I think that's where it kind of leads us to. We might as well just talk about the offense in general. And my problem at the end of the day is this, to me, is just an execution problem. And I think that's like, when you do talk to people that are level-headed about the whole thing, that's where I think everybody kind of falls in line. Is it's just a bit of an execution problem. You know what I mean? Like, there's probably some things where I think maybe people do disagree with, right? And I just think that specifically from the execution side and specifically from the Bo side, he does need to work on settling his feet a little bit. He's a bit too antsy when it comes to the pocket, at least early on in the season. However, when you do see the moments, it's hysterical. They do come in the biggest moment of games, but it's funny that, like, when you see the moment where it happens, and for anybody that is disingenuous in saying that it never happens, that is such a piss poor attitude to take, to putting it very bluntly, because there are times, even dating back to last year, where it has happened. and but the 4th and 2 play to Cortland Sutton, actually both fourth and the fourth down plays, if you will, he set his base, and the footwork was great. He was just standing upright in the pocket and hit Cortland Sutton for that touchdown. The next one was a really good case of where he set his feet quickly and then fired it to Cortland Sutton by changing his arm angle, by the way. That's been kind of talked about. Changing his arm angle and hitting Sutton in stride, and showing his arm strength, his underrated arm strength. So it's just there are those pieces that are there. It's just, how can we be able to make these habits more habitual than the other stuff that is a bit more chaotic, right? And I think that may be one of the reasons why early on in the season, right? One of the stuff that we have been hearing in the beginning part of the season was Bueller, right? Bueller.
Here's where Cameron goes berserk.
So I just think that there was moments right at the beginning of the season where there are those Bueller moments, and they do happen at the beginning part of the season.
Yeah, just to put all of this together, at least on my end, I don't think anybody that is, again, level-headed about the situation is even thinking about a quarterback change and all that. I'm not even going to entertain that. That's just more trolling on social media and stuff, which I completely understand. The part that was just more frustrating was just the whole thing of, I don't know if he can be the guy. He's only 20 games into his career, by the way, and just led the franchise to their first playoff berth last year in his rookie year. It was just all those questions that we had going into his rookie season, and now it's being brought up again. Was his ceiling just last year? Is he ever going to develop? His main problem last year was his feet, and now we keep on seeing the same thing with his feet. I just want to say that let him develop, let him just grow and learn. Yeah, we've been seeing some of the same stuff 3 games into his second year. I understand, and it can be frustrating, but again, let it play out. Maybe he is a slow starter as well, just like his head coach. And maybe if things were to be properly executed on the offensive side of the ball, maybe he gets more into a rhythm. The flow of the game is different. The flow of everything in general of the game is just different. There's just so many branches that come out of this needs to just be solved, which again, I am nowhere near panicking on Bo Nix. I'm nowhere panicking on the Denver Broncos or the offense, even though the offense has looked shaky. It's just
frustrating.
We're 3 games in. It's frustrating, and I am going to take the approach of the players and the coaches and the people in the building, which is we will be fine. It is the very early part of the season. Everything will work itself out. Because if we notice anything from last year, they did not panic when we were at a worse start last year compared to this year. So in this note, I think you said it good last time, Cam, that we should also be taking the approaches of former players that say stuff about Bo or just the Broncos in general, and former executives like that. Those are the people to really indulge what they're saying, and then you can form what you want. So,
well, and I say that just because Bo was such a weird eval, right? Bo was such a weird eval overall, to where you should always listen, right? You should always listen to draft analysts, right? You should always listen to draft analysts, and and come to your own conclusions overall. And relatively speaking, you should come to your own conclusions overall. Yeah. I just thought it was so interesting with the whole Bo Nix stuff in his draft profile, where it was so different across the board, where, you had the draft analysts that were either in on Bo, out on Bo. But the one consistent of the people who were in on Bo were the former quarterbacks, Jace Daniel, Kurt Warner, Chris Sims, the whole Sims family. Dan Orlovsky still has been on, Bo Nix. It's just one where all the former quarterbacks, Tim Jenkins, obviously, is one where it's yeah, it's just been such a weird way to kind of look at it. Like it has been thoroughly weird as far as the whole Bo Nix thing. Um, it is, and it's the true like quarterback versus analytics type of thing.
Yeah, that's
Which
also a
which
major problem.
which definitely falls on the whole draft analyst thing.
Yeah.
Fun fact before we because I saw some of the stuff about the offensive line, the allowed pressures per dropback. I just me and Jordan were actually talking about this. The number of dropbacks when under pressure, allowed pressures on dropback. Bo Nix is not in the top 5, ladies and gentlemen. He's not even in the top 10. He's not even in the top 20.
Top 25?
He's actually not even in the top 30. He's 31. He is 31 when it comes to allowed dropbacks. Now, Joe, I saw Joe mention Wattenberg and Powers. That's the other side of it too, where I'm not overly concerned even with the offensive line. Where I get concerned a little bit is that center position. And I think that for the right tackle side of things, I think you're gonna get some pressures here and there, and I think that's one of the reasons why I like what I'm seeing from McGlinchey overall. But the percentage from according to Pro Football Focus is a bit higher than the others. Wattenberg's the biggest thing because I want to say it's 20%. 20%. Yeah, like right at 20% of the dropbacks with some responsibility is Luke Wattenberg at that center position. It's that 7th for Bo. Yeah, so it's something where the Broncos overall might end up having a bit of a center conversation. Now, I will say, I want to call reference to actually something that I mentioned, Jordan, before the season began and even in the preseason. And it seems like we're starting to kind of see some light on this, which is I'm not worried about the offensive line, Jordan, but what I am worried about is them going from that inside zone to the outside zone. Right? And I mentioned that is there too much of a philosophy change like that where we probably could have done it. I mean, they probably chose it at the right time doing it in the off season, but it's still taking a little bit for them to kind of get going and understand some of that scheme.
Is it that also mixing in with the fact that maybe your center is not capable within that scheme as well, which is a bad mix of just everything?
Maybe.
Because I mean, I wrote about it on Predominantly Orange. I know our good friend Pat Coyote has talked about it. Like Alex Forsyth.
Because certainly Forsyth is a little bit more athletic.
Alex Forsyth last year, whenever he was the starting center for those few games, it was not a coincidence that our running game was a lot better. It just wasn't. And I understand that the fans only know Forsyth because of the blocked field goal at Kansas City. I'm here to remind you guys that's just not him. Like he's more of a player than that. Just single play.
It's kind of like the leverage play, right? Like it's a play where it happened, but it's rare. Like it is a rarity, So yeah, it definitely shouldn't make him as a player, but we know how sadly.
Yeah, so like I understand, like whenever we bring up Forsyth, like that's like the first thing everybody points out to, which okay, we understand. At the end of the day, we're talking about being the starting center, which has a lot more responsibility, different responsibilities than him blocking on a field goal, and all that. But the conversation has to be brought up. At least somebody in the media has to phrase the question. If they don't want
a hard question,
if they don't want to ask the question to Champagne because of whatever reason, on Thursdays when they do the coordinator media pressers, at least bring it up to Joe Lombardi. So let's see what he has to say, because listen, there's one thing that, fans are recognizing it, and like the people that do the film stuff on social media, but like it's getting to the point where like the commentators on CBS are like calling it out point and blank right in front of us. It's getting bad, and it's been a problem. It's been a problem, and I think that a minor fix or just maybe a flat out solution is right behind them.
Maybe it might be you. I feel like you're using foresight on this one.
Maybe.
Foresight for Forsyth. I just it is something, and I think that given the fact that it's early on in the season, you probably might be able to get away with it. Because it is one where, as you're gunning for a playoff hunt, you want that thing fixed, right? Like ideally you would have wanted it fixed at the beginning part of the season, but you're also not necessarily just yet in a playoff hunt. You're pushing for playoffs every time from week 1 to week 2, athlete mentality. But it's one where if you want to make that change, you can do it now, right? Like you can do it now.
Okay.
So it's one where I think from the offensive side of things, it feels like to me it's a bit of an execution thing with some minor some fixes here and there. I think at the end of the day, the stuff of this offense is 100% fixable. It is 100% fixable. That's the side of this too. Like it is so fixable. Bo setting his feet, or some of the wide receivers, maybe seeing a little bit more of the middle field, and Bo maybe taking a little bit less off on a pass. When it comes to the middle part of the field, so that the wide receiver can be able to, catch it appropriately. Or, the other side of this is, something where I'll pull up Joe's comment, but he was talking about maybe a little bit less personnel at times, and you're divvying up a little bit of, so much personnel that there's just a lot going on, and it could possibly be a lot more at your disposal of, a quarterback. So you might feel like you're erratic because there's so much personnel on the field, meaning from the quarterback side of things. Before I pull up that comment, though, Joe did mention regarding that center position, Cushenberry or Wattenberg, who would you want out of that center position, or maybe even Glasgow? Who would you want? Because Glasgow can play center.
I mean, Cushenberg would have been a lot better, and even Glasgow would have been a lot better. Like, and I'm not really trying to dog on Wattenberg, but he's been that bad. He's been pretty bad.
Yeah. And then just real quick, Joe mentioned, don't forget Sean is doing the round robin of personnel groups, and how many times have been, we've seen Sutton not attacking the ball a few times. And that is the thing. I will say, for whatever reason, Sutton always has games against the Chargers.
Yep.
I called that during the week. He has games against the Chargers. So I think if you are talking about something relative to him getting his season now under him, that was probably a good game to have. It was a loss, but it was a good game to have. Now we'll see if that is a train that is going to end up rolling more and more, and you see that a little bit more, because it seemed as the things were progressing that the Chargers may have been keying on Troy Franklin a little bit more, right? Like that they may have been keying on Franklin, which that's going to happen. And in a very underbelly point, that's a good thing, because it means that Troy Franklin is already striking fear in some of the team where, in the words of Jordan, he's a Sunday player. At that point, he's a Sunday player. So I just think that it's one where, Jordan, the personnel stuff does get a bit interesting, because we've mentioned it, because it's like, there's probably a lot of stuff that they can do and fix in terms of maybe adding some more playmakers and stuff to this team, but it's one where it's like, is it a case where maybe there's just a lot of mouths to feed, and Sean is, relatively speaking, doing the best that he can to spread the wealth as much as he can with so many personnel groups?
Yeah, I really want to get into this personnel thing because, like, obviously we saw it last year, and then we're seeing it again this year. I can see how hard it can be for a player to get into a rhythm, especially subbing in and out, especially with all the personnel packages that Sean has. I think sometimes, and again, I am no person to be telling Sean what to do or whatever. This is just from what I see. So take that for how you will. But I feel like sometimes Sean tries to outsmart himself throughout these games with subbing guys in and out every single play with the mass subs of personnel packages that he does. And it also gets to the point where when he subs these guys out, he has this mass substitution. Then he gets the play into Bo. Bo reads out the 10-page book play to the huddle, and then he's at the line, and there's already 10 seconds left on the play clock. So it has to be a very fast, check at the line. We're good, and then all that. So again, there's a lot of factors into this as well, which is, I think this is what all comes down to with the offense. There are so many factors from the point of execution to just pre-huddle, literally, like pre-huddle, not even the huddle, just pre-huddle with all the mass substitutions and people going in and out and all that. And I feel that Sean sometimes outdoes himself with it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he's trying to get the defense, confused with their packages and see what they do. I know he has his reasons for that, but I can see how hard it can be for a receiver like a Franklin, even a guy like Cortland Sutton, a guy like Marvin Mims, for them to get into a rhythm, because you don't know how many plays you're going to play on a drive, and you don't know how many times you're going to see the ball on that drive just because of what's happening within the game. And that's just a commonality, but like it's hard. So it does not shock me that we see Troy Franklin break out in a Colts game, but in a game against the Chargers, he doesn't.
Well, and the other side of it, just from a little bit, is that I don't want to go too much in the sense of babying him a little bit, but we are still talking and granted, it's one where it's been 3 years, so it shouldn't be that bad. But it's a case where maybe this team has needed such a cultural shift, that it's still taken 3 years, for this, for that type of thing to sink in, for the way it operates pre-snap, post-snap, etc. When it comes to Sean Payton, I think that's to a certain degree a bad thing, because it shouldn't be 3 years, right? Like, it shouldn't be 3 years. And I think that the other side of this is I don't have even the slightest problem as it stands now with the whole play calling, the play calling notions of Sean. Like, in general, I don't have any issues with that. I do think there are moments where Sean does outsmart himself, to what you're saying, where analytically he kind of overdoes it a little bit. He overdoes it a little bit, to where there's certain situations where, why didn't you go for it there, but you went for it, in 2 other places, right? Like, there was that 4th and 1 that he didn't go for, where it's one where it's like, brother, you went for it twice in almost the exact same type of, down and distance. Why not do it there, right? Like, why not do it there? So I think it gets a bit confusing at times when you see stuff like that. And, but I will say this, and this is going to lead into another massive talking point as far as between the execution, as far as my biggest thing in the first couple weeks, and this other thing in the first 3 weeks. And that's, I don't have a problem with Sean's play calling. That said, though, I do wonder if it's going to get to the point where Sean has to look at himself in the mirror. He has to look at himself in the mirror, and he has to be like, what's best for the team? What's best for the development of my young quarterback? Because is it better for the current state that I hand these reins off to Davis Webb, even though that it feels like the execution still isn't better? Maybe it's just where he can reach them just a little bit more, meaning Davis Webb being a young quarterback and a quarterback that can be relative to Bo. And the other side of this too, and this is the large reason why I'm saying of divvying it up to Davis Webb, is it may actually give Sean the final chance, if you, or not final chance, but the opportunity to be the true CEO of this team, where you start to see a little bit more involvement in the special teams aspect, the offensive aspect, maybe even some defensive aspect. Because the idea is that we, a CEO type coach, where specifically in this team in the first 3 weeks, the undisciplined nature of this team is it's too much. And that is probably the number one takeaway for me in the first 3 weeks, and even the first 3 years, is just that the discipline of this team is very, very frustrating. Like, Sean, I would say historically, has never been one where there's just been an X amount of penalties, and possibly even being in the top 5. So to see that many and alarming penalties and stupid penalties, where you can say phantom call, whatever, but just putting yourself in that kind of situation is a terrible, terrible reflection on you as a team.
Yeah, it is a bit, I guess, uncharacteristic to see a Sean Payton team being penalized like this. I understand some of the calls are very ticky-tacky, if you want to say, throughout these games. But still, you would think a team would be way more disciplined, especially more of a veteran group, especially compared to last year, obviously. But yeah, just very weird. I think, again, those things will be cleaned up. But yeah, I think Sean, and it's funny because on Sean's play call sheet last year, there was that famous photo where he clearly reminded himself at the top of the play sheet saying, "Run the ball."
Maybe even others too. Yeah.
In all caps.
Yeah.
And it wasn't brought up after Bo said it in the presser last game, but watching it and the way Bo said it and the Tony said it, I forgot what the question was and who asked it, but it was along the lines of, what do you guys need to do on offense or whatever? And the Bo said that, or to sustain drives. And Bo goes, it looks like whenever we do run the ball, we end up scoring. And it was just the way he said it. It was probably just more of a, like, we need to run the ball. Like, it was kind of like him reminding Sean, like how Sean Payton told himself last year, that I need to run the ball. And Sean Payton is not afraid to like call himself out, because he's done it before. And I think that's the great part of a guy like Sean Payton and a guy like Bo Nix. Like, we even saw Bo Nix, for all the lip readers out there, he was on the bench saying, I had so many chances today. So like, they both know the problem. They know what and how to fix all these problems. Again, it's just frustrating to see it so early into the season with all the hope we had and aspirations and goals and all that. But I do feel like seeing those things, I mean, I know everything will get, worked out, but yeah, I have those are pretty interesting.
What do you think about that thing that I mentioned though, about I trust his play calling. I think that and everything, but it might get to the point where in order for him to be that true CEO level coach, it might be the best thing for him.
I get it. I do. Do I think Sean does it?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I mean, and I'm agreeing with you. I don't have a problem with Sean Payton's play calling. I don't think people would have a problem with his play calling because it's just a lack of execution. So it's not really the play design. It's just the lack of execution, and it's nothing that the defense is doing. It's more so us shooting ourselves in the foot. And we've seen it in the game. We've seen the film with all the breakdowns we've seen on Twitter, on YouTube, and all that. It's just simply a lack of execution. So, but with that being said, again, I don't think it happens. But if he were to pass the reins for Davis Webb to call plays, I don't know if that frees up something within the offense, whether it's Sean Payton and his creativity and other aspects.
Yeah, we're not in the room.
or him seeing the game in a different lens, and then who knows? At the end of the day, I don't think he does that. I think he'll continue to be the main play caller. I do not have a problem with him calling plays like how you do too. I just think at the end of the day, once this team starts getting, once they start rolling and getting into more of a rhythm, which I do believe it starts on Monday against the Bengals, that we'll see a lot more different things out of this offense, a lot more success.
And to go into the other conversation of the other side of the ball, it's also a case too where I'm not discouraged long term still with the defense, because that is the identity of the team. However, though, the things are lingering. There's things that are lingering, like this linebacker issue, like the loss of Malcolm Roach, and everything too. So it's just that kind of thing where it's like, I'm not discouraged long term. It's just there's things that are piling up and adding up. And then to maybe where you are kind of seeing a little bit more of the undisciplined nature is that defensive side of the ball.
And I know we're transitioning to the defense, but you just reminded me something, and you just said a key part, which is the identity of the team is the defense, 100%. But staying on that word of identity, we know the defense's identity is pressure, blitzing, all that.
Right.
Man to man. Like you could name 3 different identities with the defense. What is the main offensive identity through 3 games? Can we really pinpoint an identity with this offense?
You really can't.
You can't.
You can't.
And we can name
an idea. Yeah.
But again, with the lack of execution and with the lack of just flow, rhythm, and everything in between, and all the little intangibles that go within it, you really can't put an identity on this offense. And I think starting on Monday, we need to know an identity of this offense. Or not, then I can start being really worried. Because I'm not worried at all. Again, it's the beginning of the season where they're going to get those things figured out. We just need to see what the true identity of the offense is. But now going to the defense, we know their identity. They're going to get pressure, whether it's blitzing or not. We know they're going to play man coverage and they're going to play tight, which is the good part. Like, we know going in with our defense what it is. But there are still lingering issues, like you said, with the linebackers, where that's going to have to get, solved relatively soon.
Yeah. It's going to end up having to get solved relatively soon. And there are still a little bit of some miscommunication things, within that secondary. Now, to the other, if it wasn't Bo Nix, who was getting massively crucified on social media, it was the White Shadow, being Riley Moss. And so to answer you, Joe, we aren't off the Riley Moss train. I think that when people say that, you can never defend the perfect throw, like, how many opportunities were there against the Chargers where it was the perfect throw and there wasn't really anything Riley Moss could have done about it? The very famous play that everybody's pinpointing in the red zone, where were there 2 holding penalties? Yeah, that's kind of debatable. But the fact is that throw that was made, there were 2 perfect throws. Like, it's the identity of a perfect throw. It's the perfect identity of the perfect throw. Nick Benito's hand is literally in Justin Herbert's face, and the ball is literally around his arm, throwing it. Perfect throw. The ball goes into Keenan Allen's chest, with Riley Moss's hand quite literally draped over him in a way where if it just moves up just an inch, it's deflected. Like, when they say it is a game of inches, it is a game of inches. And that's even not just the only other play. Like, there's the other play too, where in the red zone, or the pass that led into the red zone, which was a phantom pass interference penalty. That's beside the point. But, like, he jumps up and in a complete better fashion than Raheem Moore actually times it. He actually times it. It's just when you cannot defend the perfect throw, and the ball had enough arc on it, actually the perfect arc on it, to where it just lands in the lap of Quentin Johnston on like the 4-yard line, 5-yard line. So like there are just situations where you can't defend the perfect throw. And then statistically, when you have a corner that is allowing the same type of completion percentage as Anthony Richardson, that is a good corner. Like, that is a good corner. That is a relatively good corner. So I think Riley Moss, for all intents and purposes, is doing his job. And I think that when you look at it from the standpoint of like, just like relative to the whole Pat Surtain narrative, he's gonna be thrown at. Like, you have to come to expect it.
It's not like they're wanting to pick on Riley Moss. It's just they can't throw it to their best receiver who Surtain's going to be covering. So it naturally goes to whoever Riley Moss is covering. And I understand everybody thinks that every pass shouldn't be completed because we have the best
Relatively
defense.
speaking, it shouldn't, but yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, Riley Moss is going to give up catches whether you like it or not. Jaquan McMillan is going to give up catches whether you like it or not. Even the first-round corner that we drafted, if we throw him into the fire, which I've seen a lot of that.
Surtain will at times too. It's just it happens.
It happens. But while saying that, I am nowhere near even close of getting off the Riley Moss train. The catches that are being made on him have all been contested. And I went back to that saying that Sean Payton had during training camp. Like, every single throw that's gone Riley Moss's way, whether it was in training camp, last year's training camp, he also mentioned it, everything is contested. Like, nothing is easy. That Keenan Allen catch wasn't easy. He just made a tremendous play on the ball. You can't really fault Riley Moss for that. Again, if he moved his arm an inch up, pass is getting deflected, and we're having a completely different conversation. So I understand Riley Moss is going to get most of the flack for the rest of the season. It's not even now. It's just the rest of the season naturally because he'll be the guy giving up the catches due to the offense not wanting to throw to Surtain's way. And they're not even going to test a guy like a Hufanga anymore or like a Brandon Jones because those two are very good in coverage as well. It's just the matter of the fact that Riley Moss is going to get the majority of the targets, and I think he's done a fine job in his role and what he's being asked to do. I mean, at the end of the day, he's going to give up catches, and we have to live with it. I would say it could be a lot worse. So,
yeah, it could it could definitely be a lot worse. So, and I'm not worried about it, and I think that there are probably still maybe a little moments where, Big Mike mentions about Surtain. I'm not worried about it, but it is.
Yeah, Big Mike.
For anybody that's been living under a rock, Terrion Arnold and Surtain started up a podcast this week, or it's been in the works for, I should say, for like a couple months, and or maybe even a year, but it finally broke around this week. Not exactly the greatest timing, but
yeah, not the greatest timing. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. So, but yeah, it's one where there are a few plays probably here and there where you're like, what are you doing, Ben? Like, and I think that maybe it's part where he's maybe trusting his safety room a little bit on the back end. And it's also one where probably maybe not knowing the whole story on it.
Yeah.
But I'm not worried about it overall because we are still talking about the best cornerback in football. Yeah. I just think at the end of the day, it's one where I'm not disappointed long-term for the team. I'm curious about the progress of where things might go with the linebacker room long-term. That's kind of beside the point. But if we do talk about something that is very positive in the first 3 weeks of the season, Jordan, we talk about the identity the identity of this team. This pass rush is insane, man. Like that, we can talk about it, and we're only sitting in week 3. We can talk about it from the vantage point of Nick Bonito, Jonathan Cooper, Jonah Ellis, and even Dondrea Tillman. Like, this is such an insane unit. Like, for the opportunities that Jonah Ellis has, he's in the upper echelon of pass rush win rate. For edge rushers, and Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper are in like the top 7. And then, as we said, like Dondrea Tillman is the forgotten one of the bunch, and he is really, really solid and good. Not an edge rusher, but but even John Franklin Myers went in and got a sack. So it just, Jordan, it's insane what this pass rush unit has done.
Yeah, going into this game, listen, I'm not gonna lie. We talked about it on the episode last week, the matchup between Joe Alt and Nick Bonito, and I was giving Bonito his flowers, Joe Alt his flowers. Arguably the best tackle in the game, and he was going into that game. I mean, he gave up the lowest amount of pressures and all that. On Sunday, watching the game, I was scared. I was like, I don't know if Bonito's gonna get. Is Bonito gonna have his typical game that we're used to seeing? And I'm not gonna lie. In my head, I thought he was gonna be, controlled a bit by Alt. Man, oh man, that game against Joe Alt that Nick Bonito had was so reassuring for me. And listen, I'm a big Bonito guy. I think he's great, but to see him do that to another all-pro tackle and arguably the best tackle in the league was just awesome. And now I can confidently go into almost every single game knowing that Nick Bonito is favored in his matchup heading in. Because I really didn't know if he was favored going into this Joe Alt matchup.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. I just wasn't confident enough. But after what he put, what he did, I mean, I just I think he would be favored in whatever matchup he's in against whatever tackle going forward. He is that good. He's gone so good, and it also helps when you have a guy like Zach Allen in the middle, like John Franklin Myers, who is the most underappreciated player in the entire NFL. And it's not even debatable at this point. Jonathan Cooper is still doing his thing on the other side. And then you have a guy like Jonah Ellis, who will be a starting edge guy for 80%
Half the league.
80% of the teams in the NFL. He is absolutely ridiculous. Even the forced fumble he had on the kickoff return was crazy.
Yeah.
But it's such an awesome feeling knowing that you have a really, really good defensive line. Like, there's arguably not a better feeling knowing that your defensive line is just so good.
Here's a stat for you. It's absurd. This is absurd. And I know, relatively speaking, with Pro Football Focus, it's not the greatest. But in support of Pro Football Focus a little bit, I don't care for the grades. I care more I care more about their statistics. So when I bring up of the allowed, pressures on drop back, and Bo Nix is 31, things that kind of make your head spin. Speaking of making my head explode and just like, wow, I called up the pass rushing productivity. In minimum of 50% of the rushes, Nick Bonito's number 1. Above Myles Garrett. Guess who's number 3?
Jonathan Cooper.
Yeah, like it is wild. Like what he's been able to do. And like when you even call up like what I think is interesting is when you talk about Bonito's most successful side, when you talk about his most successful side, it's the right side. He is second in according to Pro Football Focus as far as pass rushing productivity on the right side, next to Trayvon Walker, who's been a dude this year for Jacksonville.
Yeah. It's incredible.
It's absurd.
And shout out to the run defense too. I know they've had some plays that have broken out and stuff like that.
Relatively speaking, yeah.
That's going to happen time to time. Again, I think they're missing their best run stopper in Malcolm Roach. So that also plays another big factor. But bringing Hufanga into the box, also another guy, another hat to stop the run. I think DJ Jones has been great. And everybody just, doing their job and stopping the run. I think that also has given them the royalty and the pleasure of just rushing the passer on third down without any worry of they might run it here. It's just go get the quarterback. And
holy crap. So sorry to I'm doing deeper on this whole pass rush thing. In 20% of the pass rush snaps, guess who's number 3 and 5? In terms of pass rush plays in the NFL, according to Pro Football Focus.
Assuming Zach Allen has to be in there.
Nope. Jonah Ellis is number 3. Number 5, Dondrea Tillman.
Good for Tillman.
Yeah, and then Cooper is 10. Cooper's 10. Yeah, no, it's just sorry to cut you off there, but it was
the depth on that line is crazy.
Yeah. And then going into this game against the Bengals, it's one where you got to eat. You have to eat. Because the story of this game, aside from the cornerback matchups between Riley Moss and T. Higgins, Surtain on Chase, and then obviously Gesicki and Noah Fant, who's now a Cincinnati Bengal. There's the Chase Brown element too that's gonna be talked about, but like they're gonna have to get they're gonna have to get to Jake Browning, because like in order for you to truly wreck plays, you're gonna have to have as many pressures as you can. Like I'm not trying to say I need Benito to put forth the same kind of pressures that he put on Cam Ward, in week 1, which is darn near, as we said, like a full game sample size, 2 game sample size in one game for Benito. Like it's just the whole defensive line and stuff. Just they need to be able to get to Browning and create as many turnovers as they can.
This is a game, you said it right there. This is a game where we need to win the turnover margin by a lot. And listen, I understand just get the win. Totally understand that. I'm all in on that. But you need to make a statement in this game. I understand the conversation right now around the Broncos is they're not living up to the hype, this and that. There's just so many things surrounding Denver right now. Now that we're in a primetime game, it's against the Bengals, who now Joe Burrow is out. So it's not really the anticipated matchup that we were all hoping for. With the start of our season, the start of the Bengals season, especially with what they just came off of against the Vikings. Again, not a lot of hype and expectations going to this game. The Broncos need to create that hype and the expectation after this game. They need to put a dominant performance on prime time in front of the world. I know that not a lot of people understand that the Broncos are 1-2, and realistically they should be undefeated, and we haven't trailed in the whole fourth quarter and all these stats. And I'm sure ESPN and the crew will bring it up. At the end of the day, our record's still 1-2. We got to go prove it. And I think this is a perfect game on primetime. Who cares if it's a bad matchup and not a hyped up game? I could care less. go out in prime time, go out in front of the fans, and put out a statement saying our record is not indicative of what we are, and put our performance. And I think that starts with Benito, Cooper, and this defense. Get to Browning, make it uncomfortable, because the Vikings did, and it got ugly real quick.
And again, like, if you want to, for all intents and purposes, steal a win, do it now, because Joe Burrow will be back and they will be pushing for a playoff spot at that point. Probably the moment he's back, right? Because that's probably when the Pistons will be, firing for the Cincinnati Bengals, just because of, I guess, like how it's all going to work out. But just with, the way he's probably going to end up playing. But like, steal it. Go steal that win, because later on in the season, you have this game right now, you have the chance to be the Indianapolis Colts to what they did to you in week 2. And it's going to be the other side of it where, do what should have been done last year and get that win. Because, I mean, we all agree that holding up 2 and everything, like, they probably would have won that game had they gone for 2 based on the whole momentum and everything. So I think that for the Broncos, they really need to set the tone. And then from the offensive side of things, from an identity point of view, like,
perfect game.
It's a perfect game to really be. I hate to say, like, because we were talking about how, taking certain ideas and take certain things from, like, certain teams. But, this is also one where it's a very copycat league, right? Like, they always say that, like, it's a copycat league. And actually, sports in general is a copycat league. You being a basketball fan, like, there's copycat stuff in the NBA. There's copycat stuff in hockey, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it's one where the NFL is a copycat league. And I know we talked about it from the standpoint of, like, okay, we saw what they did with Warren. Let's see if they can be able to do that with Evan Ingram. Ingram's hurt right now. We don't know the current status on him. He may or may not play. That's not what I was going to talk about. What the Broncos need to do is take, in essence, somewhat of the identity of what the Chargers did and create that themselves, of being this ground and pound rushing attack where, look, Bo, I love your back, but we also kind of need your wheels a little bit, buddy. So, like, let's kind of still establish this identity and, use J.K. Dobbins, use that hot hand, which on the side of this, like, I think that is a very needed topic that probably should be talked about just a little bit more. When we talk about the identity and we talk about the identity of Sean Payton, he's theoretically what, like, Jordan, like, a very running back by committee approach guy.
Yep.
So far early on this season, he's riding the hot hand. He's riding the hot hand of J.K. Dobbins, which is really good to see. So let's see a little bit more of that. Sprinkle in some R.J. Harvey, who is in spurts looked really well. So let's establish that running game against the Cincinnati Bengals.
Again, you can't ask for a better, with how things have gone to start the season, 3 games in, you can't ask for a better opportunity for the Broncos offense in a week 4 game against the Bengals in prime time at home. When you need to get things going, you need to figure out what you're going to be as an offense, what your identity needs to be. Couldn't be a more perfect time for this game. Listen, the Bengals defense is horrible. But at the same time, they still have Trey Hendrickson, who is an absolute menace. They just drafted Shamar Stewart, a first-round guy, who is going to be really good. So they still have 2 players that are really, really good. At the same time, that defense is known to be really, really bad. And you need to have your breakout game offensively this time. You have to. And a breakout game doesn't have to consist of running 80 plays and doing all these pretty stuff. Just figure out what your identity is, stick to it, get into a groove, find your rhythm within the offense and within the framework of the offense. Like, at the end of this game on Monday night, next week's episode on Wednesday, we should be able to talk about the Broncos finally have an offensive identity.
Yeah.
And it's this, and this. Like with the Lions, we know they're going to ground and pound or they're going to go hard play action. If it was up to me, I would love the Broncos to be that type of team. I think they can be that type of team. And I think it'd actually be more beneficial for someone like a Cortland Sutton.
Or even
And
a Bo.
I'll even say it. It'd be super beneficial for a guy like Pat Bryant.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to get Pat Bryant in the game, this offensive identity should be ground and pound, and imagine him on play action passes. I mean, that's and listen, everybody knows my stance on Pat Bryant, but I think the offense is at its best when it can do that, and hopefully at the end of Monday night we can say that's our identity, but time will tell.
Well, and stats proved that last year the Broncos, or specifically Bo Nix, was one of the best play action quarterbacks in the entire NFL last year. So I don't know, Jordan. We might be onto something here. They should be a bit run heavy and get those, like the RPOs, the play actions, like it's, as Roddy mentioned there, like get some RPOs, get some of that play action in the game, like in the, in terms of the play. But the other side of this too is when I like how you brought in, the subtle little things. More importantly, like in terms of the game, the Broncos have to win on first and second down.
Oof.
They have got to win on first and second down, because if they don't win on first and second down, you're talking about the exact same type of scenario that we saw against the Los Angeles Chargers, or even the first 3 weeks, which is you're talking about more third and longs, or the 3rd and 7s, the 3rd and 8s, the 3rd and 9s, even the 3rd and 11s, unfortunately. Like when those add up, it no longer becomes the money down. You're more putting yourself in a disadvantaged situation, not an advantageous situation. Like there's a reason why Peyton has always called the 3rd down the money down. And when you have them in 3rd and short, like more often than not, you will win a lot of football games, because it means your percentage of winning on 3rd down goes even higher.
I'm such a homer for the early down success stat, which I think everybody should really keep an eye on, and really, like, if you want to know the success of the team and how things are going within this, just look at that stat. I wrote about it last year. That's basically all I listened to last year when listening to Michael Lombardi's podcast and him talking to former players, coaches, and people in the building. Like, that's just the priority number one. Like, and he even said, like, playing like Canadian style football, just getting first downs on first and second down is the best way to play offense. And right now, our early down success has not been great whatsoever. And again, I think on Monday, especially with Peyton calling it out in the media and stuff like that, like, we just have to be better on first and second down. Like, it's hard to play quarterback when your average 3rd down is what was it against the Chargers? 3rd and 11 or 3rd and 10? He said something like that. I mean, it's hard for any quarterback, let alone a guy that's in his 2nd year. So again, first and second down will be crucial downs. I know 3rd down is usually the down where everybody's like, oh, this is a crucial down or whatever. No, it's first and second down.
Right. 3rd is the money down, but in order to get you there, you got to win on first and second down.
Right.
So when you look at it from the game, looking at it, predictions, I called it a win. I think you called it a win. But obviously this was in the Joe Burrow era of, the season. I don't know if I'm, and this is just probably based on the current standing of where things are, I don't know if I'm comfortable saying it's going to end up being a double-digit win. Just because it's so hard to kind of win those kind of games like that. Those double-digit wins. But I will say that the Broncos win 27-20.
Interesting. I do have the same final score with the Broncos side of things, but I have 27-10 Broncos. I do think Denver's defense. I think Denver's defense gets a few turnovers in the game. They get the ball back to the Broncos offense. I do think we see a much better, more improved style of play from the Broncos.
I do think you see a bit more urgency because this is the last time that they have been home since that Titans game. So you know that they want to.
Yeah, I think you're going to see that that urgency from him. I think that was well put, and I think I wouldn't even be surprised if we win the toss. Let's go ahead and take the football.
Don't quote me, Jordan, but last year when they played Tampa, wasn't it week 4?
The game I was at?
Wasn't that week 4?
Yeah, we took the football. I'm almost positive we won the toss when we took the ball. Okay, I think I tweeted it out.
It was week 3. I wasn't sure if it was because I was gonna say like it feels like right around that point in time when the Broncos like would take the ball with that identity. So we are at that point, like almost where I wouldn't be surprised.
Go down, get a score, play in front early in the first quarter, and let the defense eat.
Yeah, I think if there is anything game wise to do it early in the season, it's this Bengals game, 100%. That if you want to take it first, go out, move the ball down, get points up on the board. Frankly, regardless of how you do it, move the ball down and get points up on the board. 3, 7, however you want to do it, get points up on the board so you can get some confidence going. And then, the juices hopefully at that point will start flowing.
Yep.
But yeah, was there anything else that you wanted to discuss, break down, maybe get off your chest a little bit more as we're
Nah, nothing to really get off my chest because that'll be another 4 hours. But I would just say to kind of wrap all of it up, Bo will be fine. Riley Moss will be fine. I understand everybody has their right to complain and do all of it on social media. At the end of the day, it doesn't help the football discourse on social media when people are trying to have a real conversation about whatever it is, whether it's regarding the Broncos or the game or whatever. So, and it's contagious. So, I will say on game days and throughout the game, I know it can be tough.
Yeah,
it can be tough, but I highly encourage people to kind of shy away from the phone a bit, especially if things are going bad, because that's where it can really get bad. But at least we know that we have a very passionate fan base. I can tell you that for a fact.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just be careful out there with what you read and stuff like that.
Yeah, and to echo what Jordan is saying, it's like to kind of call back to what we were talking about in the beginning. It is a bit of a trap because it's like we're not trying in any shape or form. We are not trying to force an opinion on you. Like we are not trying to like the whole idea of a discussion and discourse is having a very healthy discourse. So like we want you guys to make up your own mind. Like we want, people even on social media, et cetera, like to be making up their own mind. So it is never our intention. And for it to be forceful in a way where, we're like, no, you absolutely with 100% certainty have to think this way. It's just not the way that I'm wired. It's not the way that Jordan's wired.
Yep.
It's not even the way that this network for certain is wired. And it's also one where this podcast is definitely not wired that way too. So, just make the decision yourself. If you feel like you want to have a little bit more of an open mind, have that open mind. If you feel like, you want to maybe look at things where Bo should be, on a very, very short leash, that is perfectly fine and up to you. So again, like that, and again, that was just an example, but it's just wrapping everything up with the beginning of the conversation. But again, we just want to say thank you guys so much. This was a very spirited conversation. It was a very lively conversation. Thank you to everybody that had been in the comments. to Rodney, to Big Mike, to Scorpion Football, even Crew Talk Sports retweeting the show. Andy, of course, the legend. I love Andy. I've been trying to get him on the show a few times. So yeah, we definitely will try and get him on the show if we can. But make sure you check out the work that he does. Over there on Twitter, it's at Andy NFL. Really good work, and specifically when it comes to the college football season and stuff, he is a great account to follow for possible Bronco targets, etc. So, and regarding the other stuff, make sure you check out all the short form that we are doing for Mainly Broncos podcast, not just on the Mainly Broncos YouTube, but Instagram and TikTok. We do post some of the short form as well on Twitter at Mainly Broncos, where you'll see Jordan, myself, and even Brandon retweet some of that short form. There. Also follow us on X Twitter. That would be at Cameron Parker PO, at Jordan T. Lopez, and at Brandon Miller PO. This has been a blast. And last thing, and most importantly, hit the subscribe button for the MHRT Network page. We are pushing for 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And Mainly Broncos YouTube channel just got started, right? Just got started. I want to say it was about a month and a half ago. So make sure you hit that subscribe button for that YouTube channel. This has been an absolute blast. We want to say thank you again for the lively conversation. And as always,
let's go Broncos! God bless Bo Nix!
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flame out. So high, I might never come down, so what, this is my life.